Accucare Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine in Brick, New Jersey offers a state-of-the-art facility with all the best and current treatments. With athletic trainers, massage therapists, and doctors of physical therapy, Accucare has everything you need to stay healthy and perform at the highest level. Cupping, stretching, laser therapy, compression boots, and a full-body cryo chamber are just some of what you can expect at Accucare. Check out their website and social media links in my bio. No prescription is needed to see them. So call them today and start feeling and performing at your best. Again, thank you to Accucare for sponsoring the Shore Football Report. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lacey High School Football Preview Show. But before we put Coach Vircillo on, he doesn't know I'm saying this right now before the show. And I want everybody to know that Lacey High School District is naming the football field after Coach Vircillo. And they're going to have a big ceremony August 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. All are invited. Anybody associated with Coach Vircillo that played for him, coached for him, knows him, knows of him, get the word out, and let's show full support. August 26th, 6 p.m. at Lacey High School. They are naming the football field after him, the Vircillo Stadium. All are welcome. Coach Vircillo is a Hall of Fame football coach that devoted 42 years of his time to one school district, Lacey Township. The only coach ever there, only football coach ever there. Accumulated 304 career wins, which ranks one of the tops in the state. He's had 19 division titles, and he won 4 state championships. But I could personally vouch how much he's done for the game of football in the offseason with numerous all-star games and committees, the connections he's brought to his football program, and how much opportunities he's created for his players and his coaches. Me personally, I owe him a lot. So, Coach Vircillo, congratulations. Well-deserved. And let's help support Coach Vircillo August 26th. I'll be there, and I know a lot of people will be there. August 26th, Lacey High School football field will be named Vircillo Stadium. Let me show you a picture of it, and then let's get right to the Lacey football preview show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Accucare High School Football Preview Show, Ocean County Edition, presented by the Shore Football Report. And today we are going to talk Lacey Lions football with longtime head football coach, Coach Vircillo. Coach, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for the invitation, Robbie.
I invited you many times. I don't know if you just threw it out or you just never saw it, but good to have you on the show, Coach.
I wanted to see your maturity as you progressed.
I get better with each talk show, Coach, right?
You absolutely do, yes.
Coach, lot to talk about. But before we talk about your program, I want to talk about my program. The Undefeated Shore Football Report got better this off season. 2 additions to my team. I have now a sponsor, title sponsor, Accucare, physical therapy and sports medicine. And you know as well as I do, you like your athletes healthy on the football field, right?
That's correct.
Yes, there is. Yep. So Pam Anthony, the owner and founder of Accucare, has a great vision. She wants to be there for all the athletes, not just football, but she's a huge football fan and even bigger Shore Football Report fan. And she's going to be there for anybody for recovery, for rehabilitation, all that stuff. And she's got a great plan, and I'm proud to be associated with her. I really am, Coach. Also, edition was Scotty Stump, the longtime writer. And, in your 42 years at Lacey, he was in a little era where he was covering football too. You remember Scotty Stump, right?
Scotty Stump is one of the most outstanding writers I know.
Wow.
He's fantastic, and it's very good that you have brought him back to the Shore Conference. It's a sorely needed thing now that many of the papers and outlets can't cover things as well as they used to, and so your report is very very well needed, and it's good.
Well, my report, I never ever use a pen. I can't write. I can't write. I could talk, and I could talk because I was on your
Mhm.
staff for 6 years, and I would never shut up. But I don't write. He likes to write. Good combination with that. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about you. And
All right.
Coach, my pen actually was running out of ink writing all the notes I had for you last night. Um, you know, this is where we talk about the process. Interesting. You have this is your 42nd year at Lacey. You just reached a milestone which you do not like to talk about, but you achieved 304 wins. Only been two you and Warren Wolf are the only coaches in the short conference to ever achieve 300 wins. That's incredible. I'm proud to say I coached with you. I really am. I took a lot out of what you did in those 6 years, and I brought it to Barnegat, and it helped Barnegat big time. I think so. Um, your um, your experience really rubbed off a lot on me, and I want to talk a lot about that today with you. 304 wins, 42 years at Lacey, and you know what's funny about you? Because I could tell stories about you all over. You can recite every game too, just about. Your memory is incredible with that. And the thing that burns you is the games you lost. If we talked about your 304 wins, huh?
Well, that's true, and I think that that's true as an athlete. Most people I know uh, remember the day that things didn't go well. I visited Garrett not too long ago. Garrett and his father John. John was the athletic director here, and I kind of visit them once a year, let's say.
Yeah.
And every time we visit, the only thing he talks about is a loss against Tom's River North on the 1 inch line when he instead of throwing the ball, he tried to run
Yeah.
for the touchdown. And believe it or not, that's all he talks about. And he played at Cornell. He was all Ivy.
Yeah.
He was a great athlete for us. But
Yeah.
I find that comical.
Well, coach, the one thing I learned from you was you never was satisfied as a coach with the players on and off the field. You always wanted the best for your program, best for, the community, which is obvious. To survive 42 years. The average stay for a head coach, I did a little study on it, is 4 years. 4 years is usually the average stay as a head coach. I think he exceeded it a little bit.
Well, it's the passion that I have, and the only thing I really care to do is be on the field and in the weight room with the kids, and it gives me something to look forward to each and every day. And what more can I say? That's basically it. I have started to hunt and fish a little bit and garden, as everybody knows, and that's become a passion. But I find a place to fit that in. And other than that, I take care of my wife, my
Yeah.
family, my grandkids, my great grandkids, and we keep moving along.
You were actually in the garden this morning.
Yes, I was. I've already boiled the tomatoes to make tomato sauce for the winter, and the peppers are now ready to pickle. And yeah, I did that this morning.
I mean, that's funny how you're saying that because you are always into that garden and always doing stuff around the house, and yet still running a football program in your 42nd year. It's amazing. It really is.
Well, we asked the plants to produce. It's kind of like asking the athlete to produce. We're asking the plants to produce, but in order to have them produce, you got to take care of them. You got to
It,
go out there and you have to weed and feed them properly, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So,
do you
but it's a
have?
lot of fun. I recommend it for most coaches. I do, because if they have that internal drive, that motor that
Yeah.
never ends. Usually, young coaches are like that, and the motor never stops. It's consuming, and you really need to find something to do outside of that, the field and the weight room.
I might edit this part out. I don't want my wife to hear about gardening because I don't like to get off the couch and do stuff
All
like
right.
that. So we might edit that out. Coach, 42 years at Lacey, but in 1970, two things happened that were very historical. A, I was born in 1970, and B, you started your coaching at Tarkio College. Um,
Yeah.
back in the day for 2 years. Tell me something that made you want to coach football. That when you started at Tarkio, and did you ever envision coaching for this long when you first started Tarkio?
I don't think in terms of the longevity of the thing. I just think of doing something each and every day and doing what I have a passion to do. Yes, I entered college with the idea of wanting to coach, teach and coach. So that aside, when I graduated, what happened was they approached me to be on staff, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason was they had an interim class for physical education.
Right.
There was two courses. One was winter sports in Colorado. The other one was athletic recruiting, in case you went into collegiate coaching. And so I took the athletic recruiting, and I came back to Bergen County, New Jersey, and out recruited their entire administration admissions team, which was about 5 or 7 people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was approached to consider a job there, and I didn't want to do it because it didn't include coaching. It was just admissions, and then they allowed me to go on the field and coach. So it was beneficial that I got to do that and travel around the country and
Right.
recruit people, et cetera, et cetera. My wife didn't like it because of the tornadoes in Missouri. She didn't care for that. And after a couple of years, I told them I had to go home and start a career in high school.
Right.
And so that's what we did. And I found my position at Red Bank Catholic over my high school program at Dumont, New Jersey, and another school, New Milford. I never looked at salary. What I looked at was the kind of program that they had. And we had a very young staff. Tommy Lally was an all-shore football player, went to Maryland to play, and he became the new head coach. And I took over for Tommy Alvadati, who was on their staff, and he left to
Uh-huh.
go to Slasianum. He ended up at Princeton, Boston College, Miami, and then the pros. But I moved into Tommy's house in Monmouth Beach, New Jersey, and it was quite a town because there were quite a few coaches that lived in that town. It was a coach's town, including Jimmy Garrett, who became a friend and someone I admired a great deal. So he was working for the Giants as the defensive coordinator at the time. Of course, his sons did very well at Princeton, and one became the head coach at
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, etc. Right. So that's basically how I got back to New Jersey. How I started.
Oh, yep, Coach, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when I bump into people with Red Bank Catholic and Red Bank, there are those old timers that always bring you up. Hey, tell Coach V, so and so said hi, and he would have a nickname, and I would tell you, and you would smile, and then I would hear the story about him. I'm like, All right, I get it. I get it. But those guys are still around and they still remember and follow you, even though you're in Ocean County right now. You had some great fond memories at Red Bank, especially that big Heightstown game that you had at Red Bank. What was it,
Well,
45?
1975 was the year that I moved to Red Bank Regional. When I decided I wasn't going back to college to coach after having 4 kids, it was, forget about it. I had to stay in high school. And what I did was I moved to a public school. Um, it was advised that I do that by someone that was dear to me. And so I did it. And
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to be the offensive coordinator in 75. We lost the entire offense except for 1 or 2 kids, and the defense came back. So Coach Strangio wanted to put in the split back veer, and that's what we were running at Red Bank Catholic, split back veer. So I advised him not to do it because he really didn't want to pitch the ball or have the quarterback run the ball. He just wanted the split back dive in that aspect of it. So we did both, kind of like the I, which I prefer,
Yeah.
and then split back veer. We did both in the beginning, and the team kept overcoming some difficult odds. We were fumbling the ball, doing things here and there. Came from behind at halftime 6 times that year.
Mm.
You know, but it was an amazing group of kids, and even today, they are a very tight group of young men. Kind of like the Remember the Titans, that movie
Yeah.
that everybody saw. I would say that you could write a book about 1975 with all the things that happened in that particular year. And the Heightstown game being 46-44 was the culminating factor. And everybody talks about it as being one of the finest tennis match football games that they've seen.
Coach, um, when people who don't know you, they, of course, talk about your long commitment to one community. 42 years is a long time. This is your 42nd year. I mean, everybody knows you have 304 wins. Everybody knows I think you have 20 division championships and 4 state titles. But the thing that people don't realize is what you do for the game of football. And the one thing that I loved is because I loved doing what I do too. And when I worked with you, I wanted to do what you did in terms of getting involved in the off season with coaches meetings, um, all-star teams. You helped start the Governor Bowl, which was a huge, huge game playing in New York, New Jersey, where you helped me get connections because you had a lot of connections out there with the old timer coaches, the college recruiting. I mean, it was incredible. The college coaches that were walking through the doors just to say hello to you, coach. I mean, Urban Meyer. I mean, the story about Urban Meyer, how you and him got real close, is you went to Notre Dame with Craig Sicardo and you talked to the low man on a totem pole, which happened to be the receiver coach, Urban Meyer. Who would have ever known that Urban Meyer would eventually leave Notre Dame to go down to all the other stops he was at? And you even visit him at Florida when he was there. And I remember when you told him, "You're getting too big for your shoes right now." And he laughed. And every time he goes to a clinic, he always makes sure that he wants to know how you're doing and all that stuff. You had a good connection. But I appreciated when we went to Syracuse and I got yelled at by the quarterback coach for stealing his book, and Coach Pasqualeone yelled at him. But those were the great times. But you do a great job exposing your program to a lot of connections. And I took that when I went to Barnegat and had a lot of pride getting kids into colleges. How did I do that? I learned from you, getting kids into college. It wasn't just Keith Elias. You got the I mean, you were getting 4 or 5 kids in a year at college. Why was that important to you to do what you do outside of the game of football with recruiting, clinics, and also like all-star games and committees? Why was that important to you back in the day?
Well, it wasn't really. in the very beginning, I'd say that what influenced me with college placement and that type of thing was actually being a collegiate recruiter. So I flew all over.
Yeah.
I got to see the best high schools and the worst high schools, and I got to see who fabricated the heights and the weights of the players and how nonsensical that was, and it
Yeah.
didn't go anywhere. That's why I tell kids, do not fabricate your height and your weight. It'll just end up being something that does
Yeah.
not pan out.
Yeah.
So there was certain things that helped me there. Admissions uh, led me to when I went to Red Bank, they asked me to be a guidance counselor, and
Right.
I did not want to do that. And there was another time there was an athletic director position, but I had to stop coaching, and I did not want to do that. But what happened was when I became a head coach, I got consumed with just getting that job done, and it jumping from being an assistant to being a head coach where you have so much more responsibility.
Hmm.
I found it to be tasking, and I stopped coaching other things. I had already been a head track coach for Red Bank Catholic
Hmm.
and head indoor track coach for Red Bank Regional, and I did some coaching in wrestling and baseball as well. But when I became a head football coach, I focused on that and strength training, in which I started at Red Bank Catholic in 1972, the strength training program. So that was basically it. Being consumed like that meant that I didn't do anything else when asked. There was a coaches association that Al Badati belonged to in the
Hmm.
state, and I didn't join that thing at all. So what happened was in 1984, they started the State Coaches Association, and I was asked to get involved with that. Joe Corby of South Jersey, he asked myself, Ronnie Emmerich of Southern, to represent Ocean County, and that's how it started. I did have 1 year at Monmouth where we did a fifth quarter club for the coaches in the off season, which was interesting. And a lot of people like that. They like getting together and clinicking themselves, like they did in the Jersey City area.
Hmm.
But when we came down here, we tried it. There were too many coaches that they didn't get along in Ocean County. Monmouth County, they got along a lot better, it seemed.
Hmm.
There were too many. Around here, the rivalries were pretty strong.
Right.
So it didn't really pan out. But the State Coaches Association was very good, 1984, and immediately they got me involved in the North South game. So I did that for 25 years. And what happened was um, I was asked to direct that game. I assisted Louis Rotino of Union,
Hmm.
great coach. I did that for a couple of years, and then I was asked to direct it. And while I was directing it, the the coaches of New York bellowed out from the stadium that they wanted to challenge New Jersey, and it became something that we needed to discuss as a coaches group, and we had to come to a decision. Were we going to actually play the best of New York? And after asking the media and the major colleges and even the professional people, we asked them all. They all see it happen. So we incorporated the game, the Governor's Bowl, and then we went. We had to raise about $100,000 a year to make that thing work. But that's why it was a great event right off the bat. And what happened in the college game was the collegiate game was starting to allow their kids to come in early,
Hmm.
and they didn't want them to play in those kind of games in the summer. And that, along with colleges having camps and clinics and all that kind of stuff on campus during that same time, kind of watered it down. So that ended up going for 9 years, and I handed it off to the state coaches, and they did that for another 3 years or so. But we went 9 years, and we beat New York, I think, all but two times.
Hmm.
So it was good. the shore conference now needed to be the Monmouth Ocean game also needed to be revamped at one point. So we incorporated the shore coaches to get them to run that game, and we've been doing that now for a number of years. In the beginning, Army was our major sponsor, and you know the importance of a title sponsor.
Yeah.
Now we have Shore Sports Network, which is a very good outfit that they are the title sponsor,
Yep.
and because of that, we have the ability not only to do that game, but to do our Scholar Award
Hmm.
and 7-on-7 and do some other things. So I'm very proud of the fact that the coaches work at the game. I think it's important because it's not only always well received by the academic community. They don't understand why coaches work as hard as they do and for very little money in return. It's something that's strange to most teachers, but the hours put in, as you know, we don't look at. Not if you're a real coach. You just try to get the job done and get the kids
Yeah.
where they need to be. So,
Interesting, Coach. We have a lot to talk about today. Um, I'm excited to talk about a program I was involved in for 6 years. Are you ready to talk Lacey football?
go ahead.
I'm going to whip this thing off. No more mask, no more COVID, no more temperature checks, pods, the whole 9 yards. We're going to get back to normal, and we're back to normal now. For the last 2 years, you didn't have a normal off season, and it affected the seniors. Think of that. The last time they had a normal off season was after their freshman football season. They didn't have upperclassmen to show them the ropes for the last 2 years. So now we're doing a normal off season. Well, you did one. You had to reteach your off season routines to your program after all these years that you had it running pretty running smoothly. Tell us what a normal off season is like at Lacey with you.
So you want me to talk about what our philosophy is?
Yep.
Uh, well, going back to Red Bank Catholic days, where we started the strength training program in 1972. That was my job uh, when I got on board with them. We took the strength training program from Nebraska, Boyd Epley from Nebraska, and we introduced that and started that right away. So strength training was a critical part of the off-season program as far back as that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the high schools used to come to see what we did at Red Bank Catholic in the downstairs area, the strength training room that we had,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fairly intense. But we did tell the kids to compete in other sports. When I became the track coach, I recruited all the football players to run track as well. So in those days, we had them do both. We figured out a way to get them to do both. And a lot of high schools, um, like Berwick High in Pennsylvania and places like that that were nationally recognized, even if a kid was doing another sport, they would have it mandatory that they would strength train in the morning before they would start school.
Right.
Now we never did that, but doing that type of thing was important as far back as '72 and Red Bank Regional. We continued, so every day they had a count for their athletic workout, some way, shape, or form. They had to improve each and every day with the occasional break in the routines.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into Lacey specifically, it was the same thing. The only thing I asked for here when I came to this school was a strength training facility. And we had to actually develop it ourselves, but we were allowed to do it. And it's a pretty good facility, I would think. And the program is good. We've included strength, um, different types of strength training since the early days, but now we're into more speed work as well as agility work and things of that nature if the kids are involved. Not every kid, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. So our expectation is that they do it and they improve. We do keep the record of what they do and how much they improve, and it's open to girls and boys. So, and we have other kids in the room. So why don't just make it specific to football? I never have.
I liked how you also gave kid points if they played sports and all that. You always made things, you justified things, and you made things competitive in the off season. You always did.
Well, we tried to do that to motivate the kids, and with some we did, and with some we didn't. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But when we got closer to the spring, now it was time to consider doing this 7-on-7 thing, which really came about because of California and some other people in the South
Mm-hmm.
that wanted to develop this AAU or whatever,
Yeah.
a 7-on-7 concept, and I
Mm-hmm.
found it to only be important to get the kids thinking football because other sports, as as great as they are, what they do after a season is they get right away into an off-season competitive situation, whether it be baseball or basketball or wrestling or lacrosse. They all do it. Football's the only one that does not do it. We tell them to improve their strength and their agility and things of that nature. But the 7-on-7 thing, now they even have the big man contests. You know, try to motivate some linemen
Mm-hmm.
to do something. I was never big on all that stuff, but I am for the only reason now is because kids want to be active. So if you don't have that sport going, that kind of activity going, they're going to play some other sport all year round, which has been a problem for us. You know, we're
Mm-hmm.
a group four, but we're a small group four, and we don't have that many athletes. So after that, we have had a camp where we invited college coaches in for about 4 days to try to do some install.
But coach,
But
before you go
there,
on, your reasoning for that was that you couldn't get the kids to go to the camps, so you brought the camp to Lacey, and I thought that was great. You brought the
right.
camp to Lacey, and I remember you saying to kids, "Now you have no excuse." So it's here,
Well,
and that was great.
the camp thing started in 1991 when I had two linemen that I felt were scholarship linemen, and they needed to be um, worked. I
Yeah,
wanted them to be worked out by a friend of mine who was a major college coach,
yeah,
and he said he couldn't do it unless it was a camp. And because of that, I incorporated a camp for two kids.
yeah.
Well, we had about 35 kids that wanted to come to this camp,
Right, right.
and I had to scramble around and get more coaches. So it started like that. And every year they wanted to go to the camp rather than spend
Yeah,
$300-400 to go to Penn State or wherever they had to go for overnight
yeah,
travel, etc. So we brought the college coaches here, ran a good camp, double session type of camp. It was fun, and then they got to go home, go to bed, etc. 4 days was good. The camp thing became more and more difficult as time went on because colleges started to run their own camps
yeah,
and as they did that, they weren't as available to come to you, and that became an issue. So you were trying to figure out how to run this kind of camp, bringing college guys in for a day or two, etc.
mm-hmm.
And because then they have to go on vacation in July. So unless you go away to camp, the, having a camp at home is more difficult today.
Yeah, yep,
So after that, in July, today, a lot of high schools are actually coaching. I don't believe in that. I believe a kid should relax in July. They should weight train and condition and go on vacation. Or if they're going to play another sport, they have time to play their other sport, strength train, play the sport, etc. But I don't really care for the idea. coaching staff to come in 4 days a week or even 3 days, whatever they do, like a lot of these high schools. But instead, what we do is we start August 1. So on August 1, we will start football.
The thing I really took from you, Coach, too, was I remember you would tell the staff, you need to know and understand the player before he's on the field. He might be a surfer. He might not be playing football to go to college. He might be playing because he's forced to play. You need to know it. And I remember you saying that when I first got there. And I was a young coach and I started understanding what you meant because you morphed into a different style depending on your team. We had surfers one year. We had a bunch of surfers and we had the hurricane that was coming, all that. And you were talking to them like surfers, but we got the work done. You let them leave. And I've seen you in different philosophies with different teams that you had. You did. And you said you have to address things a certain way to the audience of people out there. I thought it was awesome.
You have to adjust. You have to adjust because if you're in Idaho, you don't ask those kids to practice when they have to pick potatoes.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
if
Yes.
you're in a place where they're going to go hunt deer hunting, you got to work around that opening season of deer hunting.
Yeah.
So you have to know your group of kids, and you got to be careful because as you listen to certain programs on the collegiate level or professional level, you have guys that'll work as coaches and sleep in their offices. They'll stay there all year round. I know my coaches think I'm like that, but I'm really not. I go to my garden, and I do that type of thing. But the guys that understand, Bud Grant was a great one from Minnesota. He used to tell his players, relax. There's times when we're going to start this thing. And Pete Carroll told us stories, about that. And he said he was the greatest guy he ever worked for, Bud Grant was.
Yeah. um, yeah. No, when people ask me, hey, how was it at Lacey when you were there? I said, I took a lot of notes. And I said, when you're with a guy like Coach Vircillo, you zip your mouth, you listen because he's been there, done it. And a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches have came out of your program. I know you're very proud of that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, 42 years is, and it's 42 years of winning. I remember you saying to me, you know how you survive? You win. He goes, all this is all good that we're doing stuff in here, but if I'm not winning, I'm not going to be here that long. I remember that was the advice you gave to me at Barnegat. I said, any advice? Yeah. Now win. The honeymoon's over in a couple months. Win. And I remember you saying that, and you're right. Winning helps out, but the stuff that you want to win most importantly too, like you always said, is off the field because that's just as important. Coach, let's hear your coaches who you got this year.
All right, my coaching staff includes my athletic trainer, Lee Emery, and then our filmers, Mike Taddeo, who is a former coach at Staten Island
Staten
Parochial
Island.
Schools. He's moved in here and he loves the game, so he's always around. He's helping us out. Dan Cortez, my eighth grade coordinator, he's also our filmer. My freshman coaches include two players that were on my undefeated state title team in 2006. It's Chris D'Amico, who played at Kane, and Sean McAndrew, who holds records as a tight end at Wesley College, Delaware. And Watson Halelic returns. He's guidance counselor. He returns as a line coach for the freshmen. Up on top, it's Matt Kiefer, an offensive line coach, outside linebacker coach. He played at Central and Kane University. And Mike Stupiello, who played here in 2008, and he went to Assumption College, a D2 program. He was outstanding there. He's a D-line coach, and he is also an assistant on offense as a line coach. Joe Tobin, who's been with me a long time, he's my wide receivers coach and linebackers coach. Joe Tobin's brother, I coached at Red Bank Regional, John. Warren Smith is my pass coordinator. He coaches quarterbacks and defensive backs. He's played for me in 2006, 2007 on the title teams.
Mm-hmm.
Went on to Maine University, broke all the records there, and he continues to play Arena League football right now. A new addition is Chris Demarest. Chris Demarest has a long collegiate career of about 35 years at major college coaching. And Chris, I've known since he was a young boy coming out of Keyport, or actually St. John Vianney. Chris's father and I were friends, and he was the coach at Homedale at the time. And I helped Chris go to college, get a scholarship to college. And one thing led to the next. This past year, we were just talking football and what he is doing in life. And since he's retired from collegiate coaching, and he wanted to come around and talk more football. And before you know it, he's on my staff, and he's going to coordinate our defense and work with tight ends. So that's pretty much our staff for 2022.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, I know your staff, real well. You always have a lot of Lacey guys on your staff around you. You always do through all the years, and then you have additional coaches that come in and blend in real well with your staff and all that. But it seems like you always have loyal coaches, guys that will run through the wall for you from all the years. What is the secret to doing that with all your staffs?
Well, I'm not quite certain. We try to pick people that are their character. We want solid character, and we want them to have a passion for the game, and we want them to develop as young men and football guys. Not everybody is meant to be a football coach, because it's quite grueling to give up so much of your time
Mm-hmm.
and your family time, etc. Especially if you're a coordinator, or if you're an upper level kind of coach. The today's day and age, these a lot of these young guys are under the gun, uh, to make more money and do things like that. So they may have odd jobs besides coaching. So their time is very important to them, and it's quite difficult. I've had many guys continue to they actually got out of coaching to become administrators. You know,
Yeah.
quite a number of them actually. So it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. But if you have a passion to be on the field, then you're going to be around for 42 years, I guess.
Coach, here's your schedule for the 2022 season. Give me a little input about it.
Well, obviously it's a rugged schedule. Well, we feel it is anyway. Diamond Catholic, one of the top teams in the Shore Conference, is our opening game, and we were given that challenge this year by the administrators that do the scheduling. So it's going to be quite a challenge. Coach Curcione coached here for a year, and before he went on to get his graduate studies in education, and he's a great coach. He's quite a great young man, and he's doing an outstanding job uh, developing a program, not
Mm-hmm.
only there but at Wall Township. So it's a challenge, like all of those games are. But the opener, being Donovan Catholic, is a bit more of a lofty challenge for us, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get ready for it. Long Branch, we've played them before. They have tremendous speed. We have to deal with their athleticism um, as well. They have a new coach, and he's a bright young star coming up. So we are anticipating another big challenge, and both of those games are away. Middletown North, they have a couple of the largest people we have to face as defensive ends, and a young crackerjack quarterback, which I know Coach Bush is going to love to coach.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Bush is an outstanding individual. He's coached on a collegiate level as well as professional level. So you always have to be well prepared dealing with Middletown North. Central Regional, we shouldn't have to talk too much about that. That's like our Army Navy game,
Mm-hmm.
and you throw the record books out whenever you have to deal with Lacey Central. So, and the young coach there, Coach Pigeon, does a great job, as well as the staff. And so we're anticipating, a tough game, and they are, thank God, they're going to be at our place. It's a home game. Colts Neck is Colts Neck, getting bigger, stronger every year. Um, Another strong challenge for us. We'll face them at home. I don't really know them as much yet. I have to study what they're like, who's playing, who's filling the spots in
Mm-hmm.
for them. And Tom's River North, well, they have everybody returning. And Tom's River North is touting a team that possibly is number one in the shore and in the lofty top 10 in the state of New Jersey. So, again, they're a group five with large people up front and very speedy people. I think one of their backs is one or two of their skill kids are Division One players already offered. Uh, the next game is Brick Township. Again, traditional brick. That's become a game that I really enjoy playing brick because I like the mentality that Brick had under Warren Wolf, and actually all of his coaches over there have the same mentality. The disciple coaches, Warren Wolf. So Brick Township reminds me of my hometown in terms of the attitude that they have when you approach the game. So traditional brick is going to be another tough game for us. And then Southern Regional, right down the road from here, Coach Chuck Donahue, one of the most outstanding coaches in the state of New Jersey, as well as a fine individual when it comes to everything off season. I mean, here's a man with great passion, does a lot of clinic work,
Mm-hmm.
besides having a great off season strength training program. And he's been retired from teaching for a while, and he says he loves the idea that he could just come in there and just work on football. I mean, that's one of the great things about being retired from teaching. So he's going to be well prepared. Certainly by the end of the season, that's going to be a real tough game. So we anticipate, um, since we've graduated 19 people, players, and returned about about 9 or 10 starters
Mm-hmm.
from 22. We're filling the roster with about 6 sophomores. So we'll be a very young team, inexperienced team.
Yeah, you did graduate some talented seniors. Now your division is, I mean, playing, you know, having Central now in your division. I don't think they've been in your division a lot the last 10 years, have they? With the short conference always realigning.
To be quite honest with you, I've lost track of what the heck we're doing nowadays because every year we're changing uh, the division in terms of who we're playing in division. So the last 3 years, I just get ready for whoever we're playing. I can't think about it too much. It's a little bit above of above my pay grade to think about how they're
Yeah.
scheduling people, and so we just prepare the way we have to prepare for each contest. Try to get our. I'm more concerned about us, Lacey. I'm more concerned about how my players are going to develop and approach things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really not as concerned about my opponent. Uh, that'll happen the week of the game. You know, I know there's a lot of coaches out there that think about the state playoffs already and all that type of thing. I've never been like that ever in my career. It's always been approach each day as it comes, try to be put in a good day's work, get better, and nature will take its course.
I could definitely agree with you on that because I'll try and squeeze things out of you, and you will not talk unless you know your football team. I'm talking. I got more issues to fix here than worry about what somebody else has. You always said that, And it's not what you don't have, it's what you have. I remember you always said that, and that's true. Whoever we have, make it work. Coach, what are you guys running offensively and defensively this year?
Well, we're multiple teams, so my base offense is a pro eye with spread concepts added to it
Mm-hmm.
today's day and age, especially with Warren in my program.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of shotgun, etc. However, we will do whatever we have to do to win in the year we're in. So if we have to adjust what we do, we're going to do that. And I expect to be multiple again. And that's basically it. And defensively, we have a concept of a 3-4, but it's again multiple. It's different from the defenses that we've employed in the past, which was more of an odd based 3-4. This is going to be an over under kind of a 3-4 defense.
Coach, you are the master at making adjustments. I've always said there is no better second half adjustment guy than you. The games I've experienced with you and the staff, the comebacks that we made because of the simple tweak of here or here or here is incredible. And of course, you change your philosophy of offense. You'll go to a three back attack if you think that we don't have receivers and we have more guys to get on the field. You adapted your philosophy trying to get two guys to football, but they both won't block for each other. We've had that in the past, coach. So we have to use both running backs, but they need to get the ball, but we need to give the illusion that they're going to block for the other person. And we were successful doing it. So whatever you do offensively, defensively, I have faith that your players and you're going to put them in the right spot.
Well, we're going to try, that's for sure. But I wish I did have the ability that you're saying, being so perfect at halftime. I can't honestly say that I am doing that well anymore. But there are some games that we have been successful, and we're winning our share. We hope to continue to do that. The coaches that are out there are great. All the coaches out there study and they work hard at the game, and it's a joy to be competitive with short conference coaches.
Coach, I like this part. I talk about top position groups. I think it's important. I know you do too, to not just have one star player and nobody else around them, but to have a unit. Like when you're doing your individual drills, everybody there is your strength. And I think that you always said numbers are more important than just one star player. So I broke down Lacey, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, for offense, defense, special teams, your strength of your both all the sides of the ball. And we'll talk about OD and his special teams. I think your strength offensively is your backfield. And let me tell you why. I think you got guys like Dominic Perona Sr., and you have this guy that I keep hearing all about, Aiden Wallace, a sophomore, junior Nick Stanziani, Jay Morton's a senior, also Nick Loha, a senior, and then guys who run jet sweeps. Aaron Tobia, a junior. You have Zach Brewer, a senior, and Chris Gradinonia, a senior. I think he is too. I think that's your strength of your offense. Would you agree?
Well, right now we think our depth is certainly in that
Yeah.
area, and with Dominic Perone coming back um, and being very versatile on both sides of the ball, he's basically our leader there.
Good.
The other players, Nick Stanziani did very well as a freshman in the backfield, but last year all he did was defense.
Uh-huh.
So he's returning to the backfield. Martins did very well in JV, so did Loha. Toby and Brewer were receiver type kids, but they can also run. So we added them to the depth of that position. Grassadoni is new, but he also has capability. So we think we have, going into our third week, we think we have competitive people in those positions to see who ends up being the top 2 to 3 people.
Good. Now, on your defensive side, I think it's your linebackers, and you've had some good linebackers in the past, and you got some numbers here. I think your outside linebacker, Matt Kuhn, a senior, He's a wrestler type kid, a real good football player. Nick Martin's a junior, and Dave Willis, a senior. And then the inside backers, you moved Nick Stanziani from his safety position to inside linebacker, and you got real athletic there. And you have Luciano Ferrante, a senior. Aiden Wallace, that good running back, is also a sophomore in the mix. And Corey Smith, the tight end, also inside linebacker. So you have a wealth of numbers. You just don't know which ones are going to be there. I think that's your strength. Would you agree?
Well, right now, again, we return Matt Coon and Dave Wilson, as well as Nick Stanziani, to the defense. And so we're trying to be, we actually moved Matt Coon from defensive end back out to the outside backer position where he used to be.
Right.
So that's why we feel that we've beefed up our backer core. Dave Wilson played linebacker. Nick Martin is an exceptional outside linebacker. He didn't start last year or play, but he is a very, very fine young man. So the two, Luciano Ferranti is very strong. He's a wrestler. He's a very strong kid, competitive wrestler as well. So we think he'll do well going from JV to varsity. And the Corey Smith and Aiden Wallace were two of the inside linebackers for a successful freshman program. We feel they're both capable. But again, they're young. So inexperienced, and we have to bring them along fast, especially for our opener.
Great. Coach and special teams. I think you have two quality kickers, Diego Wolf and Zach Brewer, both seniors. I think you feel very comfortable about them. You lost some good kickers last year, but you got two senior leaders that can kick the ball and change field position, right?
They're both capable kickers, and we feel comfortable with both of them. We need to develop some young kids. There is a freshman kicker that's outstanding that's coming up that we feel confident in as well if we needed to bring him to the varsity.
Awesome. So I was pretty good with my position groups, right?
You were accurate, yes.
Coach, let's hear some names of returning players that you got or newcomers for your football team.
Well, since we graduated 19 people and we still don't really know uh, how our players are going to do in a combative situation, in blocking and tackling yet. We've developed a depth chart here of kids that we feel have worked real hard and seem to have the ability, but we're not certain in terms of that. The next week or so, when we get into scrimmaging, we'll find out a lot more. But obviously, there are a couple of linemen that we need to mention that return, and they are on the offensive side, Keith Sullivan and Brendan Subsey. Both of those kids started for me last year weighing 190 pounds at guard and tackle. Now they're about 215, 217, respectively. And Brendan Subsey might be the strongest young man in the shore.
Yeah.
He has incredible numbers with strength.
Over 400-pound bench.
Yes, and over 5 on the squat. So, weightlifting doesn't mean everything, but it certainly tells you if you're sturdy, and he is sturdy. On defense, we return Nick Luca on the front line. Now, these kids can play both ways. So we are trying to develop others behind them. Guys like Vargas and Sealy and Mott and Maldonatus and Sager. Those young men are candidates to play on the line as well. They're younger. A kid named Micah Moore is another one. But I would say they always do say that it's the lines that make the difference when you're playing a game. And if you can have a sturdy line, if you can dominate the line play, then you'll be in contention to win a game here or there. So that's what we're concentrating on. The two two interior lines. You already talked about the backfield, and you already talked about the linebackers. In the secondary, we do return Zach Brewer, and we return Dominic Perrone. So we have two of the four other young men that look like they're going to contribute are Aaron Tobia, Nick Loha, Jay Martins, Justin Ulrich, Diego Wolf, Gracedonia, and a sophomore who looks like he's going to be very good in Landon Rabe. So in terms of our receiver core, they're battling for one position at the X position. Trevor Santucci, Diego Wolf, Brian Bianco, Rocco Armato. Those four guys are primary candidates for the X. At quarterback, Nick Martins right now leads the pack, but Dan DiPaolo and Bryce Kearley is also in contention to develop, and we'll see what they can do the next week. I believe I mentioned everyone.
Yeah, no.
Tight ends in Dave Wilson, Matt Kuhn, and Corey Smith as an underling sophomore are at that position.
No, that was great, Coach. I wanted to thank you for coming on the show.
Okay.
Even though we do talk on the phone 3 to 4 times a day.
That's all right.
But nobody gets to hear it.
That's okay. That's okay. So anytime you need any kind of advice or help, I'm here. You can call me anytime.
Well, the Shore Football Report will be on your sidelines in many games, just looking at your schedule, and you'll be in a dogfight week in, week out. So Scott Stump and myself will be there.
Thank
Wishing you the best this year, Coach, and Lacey the best, and keep the tradition going. Tradition doesn't graduate. That's what we always said.
We will try to do that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Coach. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right. Now we're going to talk to two senior Lacey football players who are outstanding football players and even better off the field. And that's coming from Coach Vircillo. All right. He's very proud of you two. So let me introduce you guys, and then let's get right into 5 questions that I got for you guys. All right. So to the left, we have the outstanding tight end and outside linebacker now, Matt Kuhn. Matt, give you a little wave. Now, Keith, you can't give a wave, but you're in the middle. You're on the phone. We have Keith Sullivan, a senior O lineman, D lineman. Keith, give us a wave, and we can't see it, but we know you're waving.
I'm waving.
Awesome. That's weird. You're waving. We can't see you. I'm only kidding. All right. Listen, I do a lot of study on everybody in the programs, and I have 5 questions I need to know about Lacey football. And after I know that, I know everything about you guys. Can you do me a favor and answer the 5?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Here's the one. This is serious now. You ready? Number 1. Who's the funniest dude in the football program? This is number 1. Who makes Coach Vircillo smile? Who does it? Matt, you're going to go first. Matt, you go first. Tell me who's the funniest dude in the locker room.
I think that's definitely David Wilson. You can catch him on the field a lot of times with his pants down. And I think he makes Coach G laugh a lot. Like the Army.
Dave Wilson's a funny dude. Keith, how about you? Is there anybody else?
I'd have to say David Wilson and then Dan DiPaolo.
The
quarter has a sweet spot for Dan DiPaolo because he's Italian,
Yeah.
And Dan's always making him laugh, smile, joking around,
Does it crack a smile with Coach Vircillo, those two?
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough to break a smile with Coach. Number 2, who's the leader? When Coach Vircillo has a message, maybe a practice or something he wants done, who echoes it out in a mass group message in your team? Who's that leader?
I think it's probably Subsy, me, and Keith, I think, are the 3 guys that kind of tell everyone everything and communicate the most.
So Susby, your offensive lineman, yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Keith, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's important. And what do you guys use for social media? Not tickety talk or whatever you call it. It's group message, or what do you guys use to echo it out?
So we use Snapchat because that's a pretty popular form of communication in
Okay.
like our age group, But we have Snapchat, and then we have just like a text message like group chat.
I don't understand Snapchat. My daughters do it. I will not get into Snapchat, but I heard it's good.
Yeah.
And I know one other person who doesn't use it, Coach Vircillo. So good, right? Yeah. Coach Vircillo's old school. You got to put a note in a bird's mouth and throw the bird to his house, and then a note will drop off. That's how you do it, right? He's a little old school. Or you get on a horse and you send a message that way. Number 3, how great was it to be back in normal in a weight room? Yet you weren't like that for 2 years. Was it something that you guys appreciated being away from the weight room for 2 years? How great was it, Matt?
Yeah, it was really awesome to be back in the weight room and just kind of lifting with the team again. It felt like kind of high school is back and everything's back to normal. And I think it really helped like team building wise and just lifting all summer and getting after the team. It really kind of brought a lot more. We're a lot more together as a team than I think we were in the past.
And you were a wrestler, so you saw it being back to normal, and it was tough. How do you social distance when you wrestle? It's hard to.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. We kind of social distance the best we could, but when we wrestled, I guess really that flies out the window. But, I mean, we did the best we could.
Awesome, Keith. How about you? How great was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good because it showed how much the weight room actually meant to a lot of people. Because I mean, there's always some kids that like don't show up, but it shows like the drive people actually have for football, and it's like who really cares when they show up to the weight room. So it was just like nice to see how many people cared this year just by showing up to the weight room.
I'm going to do a little secret about Coach Vircillo. He's old school and he doesn't know how to do these virtual stuff. So I'm the president. Yeah. I'm the president of the Coaches Football Association, and I would do my meetings on Zoom or Google Meet. And guys like him would be like, I can't get on. So I would call up his wife and she would press one button and then he was on. And then you would see half his face. Coach Vircillo, half his face. He didn't know how to change the camera angle. I mean, I like his forehead, but I also like the whole face. But he's getting good at it now. And now it's time to go back to normal. But he's in the face. He likes to be close to you guys. He does. Number 4, what is the expectations in your locker room with your players this season? We'll go with Keith first. What's the expectations for this season for you guys?
The expectation is just to give it all you got. Coach Stoop is one of those guys who's always like keeping us in check.
Yeah.
And he's always in the locker room, trying to keep us going. So the main goal is just to put it all out there and win some games,
Yeah. Oh, listen, and we all know that Lacey football tradition is as good as any in the Shore Conference. And Matt, you got some alumni that are coaching, Coach Warren Smith, Coach Stoops, and who else is there on the staff? Oh,
Coach D'Amico.
Coach D'Amico. Yeah, I mean the list goes on. D'Amico and Coach McAndrew. I actually coached McAndrew in 8th grade, believe it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know what the expectations were back then. Do they kind of keep you in check that way, or hey, keep the tradition going? This is what Lacey football is all about, right? Are you keeping it the same?
Yeah, I think so.
100%.
Yeah, I think another expectation for us is, I think definitely to beat Central because we're like them, and I think make playoffs is an expectation for us.
Oh yeah,
that I think we can accomplish.
Well, tradition never graduates. Remember that, guys. And you got tradition. And don't forget that. Number 5, the last thing that I want to hear. And I know the answer because I've been there at Lacey for 6 years. And it was a great time of my life. But I want to know this. And we're going to start with you, Keith, first. Tell everybody, why is it so special to be playing in Lacey football under Coach Vircillo, a legendary coach? Keith, you go first.
It's special. Playing for Coach Vircillo is special because there's so many people in Lacey who have played for them, and it's just nice to be like a part of that, like just the whole Lacey football in general, because like the amount of people I know who played for Coach V is insane, and it's just like nice to be a part of it. And it's like it's just like a whole town-wide thing because not a lot of people leave Lacey. It's a small town, and everybody just has like that one thing in common. They all know Coach V, you know?
Yeah, great point. Matt, end it right here with this. Why is it so special to play under a Hall of Fame coach like Coach Vircillo?
I think it's special because we're playing for the greatest coach to ever coach in the short conference, I believe. And like what Keith said, it's Lacey's a family, so you could pretty much go up to anybody in Lacey and they'll have to worry about Coach B, or if they played for him or something like that. Everybody knows him, and they're always asking about him. And he's a legend. We call him that in school. He's a legend.
Guys, that was great. Let me say one thing about Coach Vircillo. I talk to him 3 to 4 times a day. No joke. No joke. We had a conversation about, I said to him, hey, who was the best players you ever coached at Lacey? A quick question like that lasted 2.5 hours. And we were talking about running backs for an hour. You know him, right? But he loves all his players. He really does. And he couldn't make a decision because that shows that how, he called me back up. He goes, you know what? Back in 82 and 83, we had this guy that did multiple things. So, and then in 90, we did this. And I hear the stories all the time. Never gets old, but he loves all his players. From when he first started 42 years ago to where he is now. He really does. Great guy. He helps everybody out. He helped me out to get where I'm at. And I'll always be grateful for him. Guys, thank you very much. And definitely keep that tradition going. And I know you will. I know you will. All right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Go Lacey.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See you later, guys. Bye.
See you.